Okay everyone, so in today's video we're gonna look a little bit deeper into arrays, and so far we basically just been covering what they are and how you build them up, and that they're basically just these list containers of different values, which can either be strings or numbers or objects, like here in this case with the pets. But we haven't really worked really much with them other than printing them out into the console and the screen. So what I thought that we would do here today is to start looking at some of the ways we can work with arrays and some of the methods that we can attach to them to manipulate them, as well as some of their properties, how we can iterate over arrays, and how we can sort arrays to display our lists in different orders and such. Okay, so without further ado, I will create a new simple array here, which I will call foods. And this will be equal to an array containing an apple, banana, and an orange. And I'm going to make this into a string as well. And the first thing we're going to look at is the length property of an array, which is basically exactly the same as the length property of a string. So we basically check the length of the array, and what this means is that we check how many items or values the array contains. So if I would do that here, I will use console.log as usual to get it up into the console quickly. And I would take foods.length, and then I would press save. And if we refresh, we can see that we get a 3 here, which means that this array is 3 items long, or it contains 3 items. And this can be really useful when, for example, working with like eShop baskets and stuff, and you want to show how many items the shopping basket contains, and so on. Next, we're gonna jump over a little bit, and we're gonna look at a couple of methods that are very useful when working with arrays. And the first one we're going to look at is the filter method. And this method is basically used to filter out values or the array that we are not interested in anymore. So for example, if we have deleted an item out of our customer basket, then we don't want that item to exist in the basket anymore. So then we can use the filter method to remove it, basically. So how we do this is that we can create a new variable, const, and we can call this I hate oranges. And then this would be equal to the foods array, which we then attach the filter method to. And the filter method takes a callback function and uses this full callback function to basically iterate over the array. And the first parameter of this function represents every iteration of every item in the array. So if I write here food item, for example, this will represent apple, banana, and orange for each time we go over the array. And what we do later is that we just return, press the caps lock, return every food item which is not equal to orange. So we will here go over this array. We will see apple, banana, and orange, and then we will return a new array with all the items of the foods array which is not equal to orange. So we should get an array with apple and banana in it. So if I would console.log out this array here, console.log I hate oranges, and save this, we should see that we get an array with just apple and banana in it. So if I refresh this, press OK, you can see that we get back just apple and banana in the I hate oranges array. Another thing that is nice to be able to do with arrays is to add values into the arrays. So push extra values into the array basically. So if a customer adds a new item to their customer basket, they want to add a pear as well when they're shopping fruit, they need to be added to the foods array. And the way you do this, you can do this in different ways, more old school ways and more new school modern ways, but I will show them both. So the older way to do this is that you would take the foods array and then you would simply write push, which says push, basically means push this extra or this new item to the end of the array. And then I would say push in pear to the end of the array. And then if I console.log foods here, we should see the foods array now with an added extra item in it. So if I refresh this, press OK, we can see that we have the foods array, which is this one with apple, banana, and orange in it, but that we now have pushed in pear to the end of it too. So this push statement here or push method here can be used to accomplish this. There is also a newer, more modern way to do this, and it's called with this you use the so-called spread operator, and it's basically a way of copying properties and then adding on stuff onto them. And the way you use this, the spread operator in this context with array, is that you can create a new array, for example. So const and then we can say add an kiwi, or maybe add a kiwi, and then we set this equals basically to, we spread in the old array, so foods, and then to the end of foods we add kiwi. And then we basically, to check this, that this works, we console.log out our add a kiwi array. And then when we refresh this, we can see that we have a new array here with apple, banana, orange, pear, and kiwi. And the reason we have pear in it is that before we use the spread operator to push in the kiwi, we use the push method here to push on pear onto foods. So this is a more modern way of doing it, and you will see this a lot if you work with JavaScript, that people use this spread operator more often than not than the old push method. What the spread operator also can be very useful for is that we can use it to merge two different arrays. So if I would, for example, create a new array here, const animals. And in this animals array, I would have a dog, I would have a cat, and I would have a bird. Then I could merge this new animals array with the foods array and make one array of them by using the spread operator. And the way I do this is basically the same way that I used it here to push in kiwi into this new add a kiwi array. So what I will do here is basically just create a new array that I will call foodimals, like food and animals combined. And that is equal to I spread in the foods array. And then I also spread in into this new array the animals array. And what I do then is that I just console.log foodimals to see if this worked. And I have to refresh the page again, press OK. And here we can see that we have apple, banana, orange, pear, dog, cat, bird. And the reason we don't have kiwi in this array is because kiwi only exists in the add a kiwi array and not in the actual foods array. And that's why this is good to do as well, because here when we use the spread operator, we don't manipulate the actual source array. We take a copy of it and make a new one, basically, which is better. Okay, so that is basically merging arrays and the spread operator, and a little bit how to remove and add stuff from arrays, and some useful methods to have. And there are tons more, and I urge you to just look up JavaScript documentation for array methods and then just continue to learn more and more and more. The next thing we'll look at is array iteration. And what this means is that we basically move over the items of an array and then either perform different actions or different operations or each items, or basically based on what each item looks like. If it doesn't fulfill a condition or so, we return a new array. And there are mainly two methods we use for iterating over arrays, and they're called the for each method and the map method, and they have a little bit of different usages, where the for each method is basically used for iterating over an array and then basically perform an operation on each item in the array, where the map method works in similar regards. It too can be used to perform an operation on every item in the array, but the key difference is that the map method returns a new array from the array that we have mapped over. So that's the two differences of the main difference of the for each and the map method. But I will start with showing you guys the for each method, so you will get a better understanding of how it looks and how it performs. So what I will do is I will basically just take our foodimals array here, and then I will say for each, and then the for each method takes in a function, And here, this function here, it takes as a parameter basically an item representing every different item of the array. So in the foodimals array, it will be the apple, the banana, the orange, the pear, the dog, the cat, and the bird. So I would say here, food item, you can name this anything you want. And then what I want to do here is that for each food item, I want to console.log out. I love, and then the food item. I love, whoops, plus the food item. And then to make it just more grammatically correct, I will add an S to the end of each item. So when I save this now and I refresh this, we should see that we should get I love apples, I love banana, I love orange, I love pear, I love dog, but not returned as an array, but as basically just as a string value getting returned for as many items as there are items in the array. So if I refresh this, we will see that we get I love apples, I love bananas, I love oranges, I love pears, I love dogs, I love cats, I love birds. We don't get a new array. As you can see here, it doesn't look like this. We just perform an operation on every item in the array. If we instead looked at the map array, or the map method, the way we would approach this is that we would create a new array, because that's basically what the map method does. We would save this new array to a new constant, which we will call mapped foodimals, for example. And then here we would take foodimals.map, and the map method also takes in a function, and it also takes in a food item, which represents every iterable item of the array. And what we do here is that with the map method, we say we need to return something, basically, since we will return a new array. So for each food item, we need to do something with it. So if I, for example, would do this, return food item, then we would get an exact copy, basically, of the mapped of the foodimals array back. If I would do console.log mapped foodimals, we would see that it would look basically exactly the same. So we see here is foodimals, apple, banana, orange, pear, dog, cat, bird. And here is the new array mapped foodimals, apple, banana, orange, pear, dog, cat, bird, because we haven't done anything with them. But what we can do here, which is interesting, is that we can, instead of just returning this instantly, we can set up conditions. So we can manipulate the values of every food item, basically, of the array. So I can set up a condition here called if food item is not equal to orange, for example, then I want to return, and instead of using this syntax, I love, and then plus, and so on, I'm going to use the more modern backtick syntax here for being able to write variables right within the string. So here I would like I love, and then to write a variable, I need to write a $sign and then curly brackets. I love Foodimal. And then I would simply do like this. I love Foodimals. So I love apples, bananas, pears, dogs, cats. As long as it's not oranges, we should get return I love and then the item in the array. Else, I would return with backticks again. Ew, I hate, and then Foodimal. And what this basically means is if it's equal to oranges, then it will return this ew, I hate Foodimal or oranges, or orange, and then with this added on in this case. So if I save here, which I did, and then refresh, you would see that, oh, let's see, Foodimal is not defined. Foodimal, we write food item up here. So we just change this to food item instead. Sorry everyone, we all make mistakes. Save this again and then press refresh. And now we can see, instead of that, we just take a copy of the Foodimals array, which we did when we just returned the food item. We see that we here get a new array with I love apples, I love bananas, and then we see that the next item is equal to oranges. So then it returns, ew, I hate oranges. And then I love pears, I love dogs, I love cats, I love birds. So that's basically how the map method works. And it differs from the for each method in that it returns a new array to us after iterating over it. The next thing we're going to go over is how we can sort arrays. And this can be either very simple or a little more complex, and it's completely depending on what we want to sort. But we're going to start with the easy example, and it's sorting an array of strings. So what we could do is that we could just sort our Foodimals array here, and we would do this basically by just putting the sort method onto it. So we would say here const sorted Foodimals equals Foodimals dot sort. Simple as that. And this would work great because the Foodimals array only contains strings, and what the sort method by its default does is that it looks at the first character or the first letter of each string within an array, and then it sorts it in alphabetical order. So if I would save this now and then press refresh here, then of course we need to console.log it out to console.log sorted Foodimals, and then we save again and press refresh. Then we can see that we get them here in alphabetical order. So apple, banana, bird, cat, dog, orange, pear. So they have been sorted properly, and that's all great. So very simple. When it comes to numbers, however, it's a different story, and I will explain to you why. But first of all, I will create a new numbers array here. So numbers to sort equals 21, 3, 4, 56, 1, 3, or 37, and 3. And if I would just now perform perform basically the same operation here, so I would say sorted numbers equals numbers to sort dot sort. This would not get sorted properly because it would just look at the first number or the first figure of each number here. So it would first look at, okay, 1, it would take first, then it wouldn't look at 3 and sort 1, 3, 4, 21, so on. But it would look at the first number then, which is closest to 1, so it would read 21 here as 2. So if we refresh this, we can see that it, and we of course have to console.log this out too, console.log, and then sorted numbers, and save this. Then we will see that it says 1, 21, 3, 37, 4, 56. And what we would like to see is 1, 3, 4, 21, 37, 56. But it doesn't see it in this way since the sort method would only look at the first figure of each number. But fortunately, there is a way to get around this when working with numbers, and it's to add on to the sort method what we call a comparison function. So as a parameter, we basically give the sort method this comparison function. And this function takes in 2 parameters or 2 arguments. And what we do with these arguments is basically just return the difference between them. And then this will give us the array in the order of the smallest to biggest. And if we would take the second argument minus the first argument, then we would get from biggest to smallest instead. So if I press save here and then run this again, we can see that we get 1, 3, 4, 21, 37, and 56. So then we get the array sorted. So that's how we need to do it when we work with numbers. Okay, I'm gonna cut it there for this video. And next time we're gonna even deeper into arrays and looking at arrays with containing objects and how we can work with these objects within the arrays, and even how we can sort an array based on the properties of the objects within it. Okay.